Be happy to talk with you on air. Carey, you were talking to us before we left about some of the characters. I'm interested in how you develop your characters. You've got some very well, they're fantasy characters in here, and so I want to know how you develop the characters of Anouk. You said she was based a little bit on you. How about Sparrow and Tristan and the other brothers and other, who are you looking to base these characters on, or how do you develop them? Do they kind of take on a life of their own?
They do. Those particular characters in the book were really just figments of my imagination. The character Sparrow, who is really the other main character in the book, he's an elf. A part of the original dream that I had that formed this story, he was the only other character in the story. And I already had an image of what he looked like, and basically it's kind of like taking the ball and running with it. That
Now, when I think of elf, I think of the Keebler elf, with a little bitty tiny guy with the pointed ears, but Sparrow's not.
No,
you can kind of put whatever physical description on him you want to.
Yes, I think, I guess if you're going to, it's more of the type of elves that we see in The Lord of the Rings, powerful elves that are very wise and very old, and he's not necessarily old, but the race is old and very wise.
Indeed. And in fact, when we were talking about the setting and where you kind of picture this book being, I kind of pictured the Lord of the Rings scenes. Those kinds of imageries came to mind.
Lord of the Rings was actually filmed in New Zealand, and I have an uncle who lives in Auckland, New Zealand, near where it was filmed, and I've seen a lot of home videos, and it does. A lot of those images come to mind. I've never been there, but I surely would like to go.
Well, your imagination can take you anywhere, and Carey, I can tell you that it does. Your own childhood was you kind of use that as a reference because, again, your affinity for animals and the way you care for them and the way they are such a part of your life.
Yes. When I was a little girl, people used to tell me I had a way with animals. It was something I heard from strangers, from family members. When I started working in the veterinary field, some of my first employers used to tell me that they had never seen somebody that had I guess more of the connection with animals. And I think it's really just a love for animals, but it's very easy for me to write about animals because I love all animals, and therefore this book, like a lot of my other books, animals are a major part, and Anouk, like me, kind of has a way of drawing them to her. In the initial part of the book, she doesn't know why that is. She just knows that she has this way with animals, and they tend to drift to her, and she makes friends with them. And even wild animals like bears, where normally they would attack people, she just doesn't have a problem with them.
Oh, there's a really good scene in the book where a bear comes and protects her.
That's right.
Just out of the woods, there she's in peril, and all of a sudden there he is helping her out, and that was quite interesting. Again, I can just visualize this in a movie. I do hope that we take this on down the road one of these days, and I'm going to be able to say I knew her when, and I've got an autographed copy of that book, Finding the Unicorn. What kind of challenge is it for you to make these fantasies believable for us? I mean, because you can just really be out there, but you can still be writing a story that we can connect to, just the ordinary person. What kind of challenge is that for you?
Yeah, I like writing in this genre because you do have a little freedom of doing kind of what you want with it, but at the same time you want it to be believable. You don't want it to be so far out there that nobody's going to relate to the characters. And so the little bit of the challenge is when you're working with this type of area is, don't make it so far-fetched that it just isn't going to make sense. And so I try to write it in a way that you can picture that these were the way life used to be, that these creatures really did exist, unicorns and dragons, and centuries ago, this was the life of a girl that was really there. And I think using that kind of a setting, it does make it believable.
It does. Who do you think is going to be reading this book? Who's your audience?
Well, I think I've targeted a young adult. I think maybe ages 10, 12 or older. It's a sweet story, and it is about a unicorn, but it's not quite for little girls, 6 or 8 years old. It's set for a little bit older audience than that.
It is, and it captured this older woman right here. So again, I think this book kind of reaches all different kinds of audiences. Once you get started in it, you just really don't want to put it down. Is there a message in this book? Is there a moral to this story? Is there something you want the reader to take away?
There's a couple of them. One of the messages is I like the reader to think that you can be strong through your struggles no matter what it is, and sometimes when you can't see the end of what's up ahead of you, that's okay. You just keep on going.
Keep on going. And these are some environmental issues. These are mankind issues and animal and all kinds of conservation issues that you can really kind of put into these books, right?
Both of them, yes.
Indeed. Many of our writers, or our aspiring writers here, and many of the authors that I've interviewed, Carey, tell us that writing the book is probably the easiest part of it, that marketing and advertising, selling the book, that's a lot harder. What has been your experience with all that? What have you done to market Finding the Unicorn and the Wolf Experiments?
That is the hard part, and it's true. I think that writing the book was really the easiest part. I wrote this book in 1 week, and so...
Okay, well, my mouth's dropping on that, but okay. But you have that active imagination.
And actually, I wrote it 1 week at work while the doctor was on vacation, and I was babysitting the business. So.
Oh, my gosh, all right.
But the easiest part was writing the book. The hardest part is marketing, because I, like many, are new authors, and you're not born into a field where everybody already knows you.
Right.
And it's all about marketing and word of mouth.
And nowadays, it's not necessarily... You don't have the assistance of an agent or a publicist and that kind of thing. You're on your own with some of this stuff.
I could go out and get an agent, but I'm really not well enough known to start that yet. The publishing company that I worked with, I did a lot of research before I published either one of my books, and the publishing company does offer some marketing options, and so they had a press release when the book came out. They also they have a catalog. I think it's called Ingram's. It's for wholesalers. All the big book vendors will get it, and so they've placed an ad for it. And those things help, but still, if people don't know you, they just might pass the ad by if they've never heard of you before.
Indeed.
So.
Well, how important is the cover, the artwork on your book, for instance? Because that's very intriguing to me as well.
Yes, any kind of artwork needs to be eye-catching. So, I spent longer picking the cover art for than actually writing the book.
Yes. Well, you didn't draw this. You didn't
make
this. Okay. All right. So this is something that your publisher did help you with.
Right. The publishing company, they kind of give you some choices as you go through the process, and I had a choice of having them design a cover for me, or using kind of a stock bank of images. And they work with another company that had a stock bank of images of something like 120,000 images. And so I actually spent 2 weeks, 8 hours a day looking at images, cross-referencing things like unicorns, horses, artwork. And the particular image that I use is an anonymous artwork from the 16th century.
Well, it's a very intriguing a piece of art of a dragon. I would think that was what that is, and sun and moon. But very eye-catching. So I think when you see this book on the shelves, and is your book on the shelf? How do people get your books?
Yeah, it's not on the shelves yet. It was just published about 6 weeks ago, and there's a bit of a lag from the publishing date to when it actually shows in the wholesaler catalog, which is where the major bookstores buy from. And so I did hear from my publishing company that this month the ad finally goes out.
So you'll have some exciting news pretty soon, in about a month or so. Maybe
I sure hope so.
Yeah, sure hope so. Well, do you have a website or other places where people can get copies of your book now?
Yes, and that's basically the marketing that I've done on my own. Is I had a website that I started for the Wolf Experiment, so now it's the Wolf Experiment / Finding the Unicorn.
Finding the Unicorn, right?
And of course you can buy this book on both Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and many of the book vendors. But if you go to the website, which is www.thewolfexperiments.com, it actually has a link to both Amazon and Barnes and Nobles.
Okay, so they can order the book directly from there.
Correct.
Okay, good. But now also we'll be able to tell our listeners that they can pick up a copy of your book today. Where?
That's right. I'm having following this broadcast, I am having a book signing at Lark's Bookstore up in Hudson Oaks.
Indeed. That's Lark Bookstore is across from the big Walmart there in that little strip shopping center with our good friends Randy and Lisa Cook. Lark Bookstore are our sponsors here on this show. We certainly appreciate their support of our authors, and they're good people up there, so you really will have a good time there today.